You're listening to the Courserunner show. Our goal is to teach you how to convert your expertise into courses online. Are you ready? Hello, my name is Melvyn and I'm your host for the Courserunner show. This is episode 002, 3 Costly Mistakes of a First-Time Course Creator. And in today's show, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the 3 costly mistakes of a first-time course creator and how you can avoid them. And let's get to mistake number 1. Now, mistake number 1 is something that unfortunately I myself has done it many times, and that is not validating demand. And so the story goes something like this. I came up with a brilliant plan, and I think that everyone should be self-disciplined. And so what I did was that I buried my head down and I started writing a course about how using these 6 strategies you can become more self-disciplined. And after that, what I did was I went ahead and did a bunch of landing pages and also started promoting my courses. And then I launched it. And then what happens? Crickets. Nothing happens. Well, so the point here is just because you're passionate about the topic doesn't mean that everyone is or everyone should. Yeah? And so there is this quote that I'd like to point out to you from Yarosteric. Yeah, and he said that the number 1 mistake I see when creating a course is working hard to create a program upfront without knowing whether there are any people who want to buy it. And that's precisely the point we were talking about here. You see, the thing is, a lot of time, we as course creators, sometimes we may be good at teaching, we may be good at creating courses, we may be good at presenting our materials, but that doesn't mean that people want it. So for example, you know that asparagus is good for your kids, but that doesn't mean that your kids would want to eat them. They would rather have the ice cream or the pancakes rather than eating the asparagus that you think that they should get it. Yeah. So the number 1 costly mistake is not validating demand. And so with that, what are some action steps that you can take in order to avoid making these mistakes? And here we have for you the process of creating courses online. There's the 5 action steps that we have outlined for you. And if you look at the 5 steps, and if you take the letters of the 5 steps that we have shown to you here, you would see that it spells the word CLIPS. CLIPS. Now, what is CLIPS? So first step essentially is to identify what is the greatest challenge facing your audience, and that's the challenge step. So first thing, what you want to do is you want to be able to have you want to be able to look at your audience and find out what are some pains and struggles they're going through, what are some of their greatest challenge, what are their struggles, what are their pain points, what's keeping them up at night. And so that's the very first step. Now the second step is actually to learn, and that's to ask them what they need help with. Now this is the mistake many first-time course creators make in the sense that instead of asking them what your audience need, they kind of think that, okay, this is what you should do, right? And that's a fatal mistake. So instead of assuming, or instead of thinking that you know what the answer is, ask them what is it that they need help with, and you'll be surprised the kind of things that they would tell you. So here I have an example from this guy called Andrew Wagner. Well, Andrew, what he does is that he does a lot of interview shows. And so this is what he said. He said that, the big mistake is that it's not asking potential customers what they want to learn before you create them. Now, after I recorded my 1000th interview, I decided to create a course on how to build an interview-based business. I mean, it just sounds so logical, right? because from the questions I read online, I assume the biggest issue people had was figuring out how to record, the right mic software, etc. And that's what Andrew said. Now, listen to what he said next. He said, when I checked with my audience, they told me that they knew that stuff or they could Google it. Yeah. But what they were really struggling with is how to make an interview interesting. Now, so as what Andrew has kind of shared with us here in this little snippet, you can see that understanding what your audience pains and struggle and thinking that they should need a particular solution is different from asking them. So always ask them. So learn by asking them what exactly is they need. That's step number 2. Now, step number 3 is then you go out there and create an outline for the course. And that's what we call the ideation phase. Why is it ideation? Because at this point in time, you're still trying to come up with ideas. You're taking ideas from one place and another, and you're kind of putting stuff together. So it's still not quite a concrete one. Yeah, and then you go into step number 4. Step number 4 is prototype. Now, at the prototype stage, this is where you do a pre-launch offer and you sell the idea to your audience. So what you do essentially is that after you come up with the outline of the course, instead of creating the course, we have not yet created the course yet. Now, instead of creating the course, what you do is that you do up a landing page, and then you send your audience to that landing page and say, hey, this is what I have outlined for the course, and if you want it, you get if you want it, sign up early and you get an early bird special. And then along the way, once you see that people start making the commitment, which is by pulling out their credit card and spending money with you, then you start creating your course. Yeah. So at this stage, it's really to kind of do the pre-sale or the pre-launch offer, as they call it, and then sell the idea to your audience. And then finally, at step 5, once you've done that, you've collected money, you've known that you have the initial group of people. So kind of, you may want to limit it to say 10 or 20 people, depending on your bandwidth and your capability. Now, at the point in time, you then create the course. And once you start creating the course, you can start launching it in the public launch. And so that's where we call the sales stage. That's stage or step number 5. So once again, mistake number 1 is not validating demand. All right. Now let's go to mistake number 2. Now, mistake number 2 is something that I have also done it myself, and that's no unique positioning. A lot of time, I think that I am by far the fastest, the greatest, and the best course creator in a particular subject matter, and I'll go ahead and I'll create a topic or that course. And then lo and behold, when I kind of look at Udemy, for example, I see that there are tons, if not hundreds of thousands of other courses that are either similar or, it becomes indistinguishable. So the question here is, how can you make yourself unique? Yeah, how can you make yourself unique in the sense that when your course stands out, when your course is out there, people look at that and they say that, yes, this is something that I want. So the fundamental thing that we have to understand here is that it is a crowded marketplace. Yeah, course creation, learning online, e-learning, online learning, whatever they want to call it. This is already mainstream. Now, if you think that this is still something that is still in the infancy stage, you are not right. All right, this is time where things have already gone mainstream. You see that not just the big names are doing online courses like Guy Kawasaki, for example, but even the ordinary person like you and I are already making online courses teaching people. Yeah, some of us have the expertise because we have been doing training for many years, but some of us are new and we're just getting into the foray of teaching online. And that said, regardless whether you have years of experience or you are new, you need to stand out from the competition because it's a crowded marketplace. And the way to stand out from the competition, it's to be your unique, to find your unique positioning. Yeah, and to find your unique positioning, the simplest and the most obvious, rather, the most obvious but may not be the simplest answer, it's being yourself. So what does it mean by being yourself? A lot of time, when I look and when I read at some of this so-called gurus that tells you that, oh, you need to find your unique voice, you need to have your unique position. But what exactly is your unique position, and what exactly is your unique voice? Now, one of the first thing you need to understand is that we all, when you look at a particular subject matter expertise, for example, let's say you're good at design thinking, yep, and you create a course on design thinking. Well, once you go out there and you do the competitive analysis and you look at what's out there, who else is putting up courses on design thinking, you come to understand, or you come to realize that, wow, there are so many other people who have come up with courses that are on design thinking. So having the capability and having the expertise may not be enough to kind of differentiate you from the competition, because you can come up with a course on design thinking, so can somebody else. So if just competing on who has the best knowledge or who have the best experience isn't the way to go, how is it that we could do it and in a way that this competitive edge is sustainable and it's not something that people can copy and kind of erode your competitive edge over time? So here's where we go one step deeper. Now, and as we go one step deeper, this is where I'd like you to kind of think about a few things, yeah? Think about a few things. So one is that, first is you have the expertise, so does everybody else. So the next step to take one step deeper is to ask yourself, what are some of your values? What are some of your beliefs? And how are these things kind of shaping the way you think, the words that you speak, and the actions that you take? So here we have what we call the 3 Ps to kind of help you figure that out. These are the 3 action steps I want you to take. Step number 1 is proficiency. That's the first P. What are your strengths? What are you uniquely good at? Now, as I mentioned earlier on, you may be good at design thinking, or you may be good at creating a course on self-discipline, but so is a lot of other people. So that is the first step. That's something that you need to know. What are you good at first? Now, once you have done that, the next step is to ask yourself, what is my unique perspective? What are your worldviews? What are the values and your beliefs? And those are the ones that really shape the way you view the world. All right. So what are your perspectives? So for example, you have 2 people. Both of you are creating an online course on design thinking. One of them have been just doing it in the academic area. So basically, it's about giving out information. But you are different. You have a different experience, and you have a different worldview about how design thinking can be used. For example, perhaps you may have a lot of experience working with schools. And this is where you say that, well, my worldview and my belief is how we can use design thinking to help students learn better. And with that, you have your unique perspective. Yeah. And so that's the second P. And the third P is it's coming down to this P word, which is called passion. What are you truly passionate about? So back to the example, one is an academic. You being working in the school arena, for example, you have a certain set of perspective about how design thinking can be used in an environment such as education, and to go even deeper than that, so that that cannot be copied easily by anybody else, and that is going into your passion. What are you truly passionate about? So for example, let's say you are truly passionate about how a child learns because you have young children of your own, and so with that passion itself, it would definitely shape and mold the way you think, the kind of words that you speak, and the kind of actions that you take. Yeah, so in that sense, the kind of course that you create based on design thinking would be very, very different from the other person. So this is how you can find, or you can look for a way to kind of uniquely position yourself so that you do not look like everybody else. So based on these 3 Ps, how can you insert those thoughts, words, and actions into your course so they truly reflect who you are? Yeah. Okay, so that's mistake number 2. And mistake number 3 is one of my favorite, and that's not paying attention to user experience. Now, a lot of time trainers, not just online course creators, but trainers sometimes we can get away with, or rather, we can. Go on and start talking about our own experiences and about what this thing is so important. And exactly this is this is what's happening in the class that we're training. People are feeling bored, they are getting tired, they are like the mind is drifting off. It's just not connecting. Yeah, it is not connecting. So simply put, you don't want your course to be boring, and what's more critical here in an online context is that when your course in the online context is boring, what are people gonna do? Well, they're gonna switch to YouTube, they're gonna switch to Facebook, they're not gonna listen to you. They're just gonna shut you off. Yeah, in a conventional face-to-face training, they might still have they might need to give you that little bit of respect. They might not yawn in your face, but in the online, it's going to be very different. So in the online context, you really have to look into how you could take into account user experience. Yeah. And so this is a quote from James Shremko. I hope I didn't slaughter his name there. Well, James, this is what he said. He said that one of the most common mistake, and I must admit I did that too. One of the most common mistake when people create online courses is focusing too much on stuff and not enough on the customer getting results. Now, if I'm gonna unpack this for you, what it's saying here is that you're just too caught up with the content and what you think the learner should learn instead of focusing on what the learner should get. Now, what is the difference with that? Now, the difference with that is, for example, now I may say that, well, I think, okay, I'm going to create a course on how to be disciplined. And I'm going to just go on and on and on and on about, how being disciplined is good and how not being disciplined is bad. And what are the top 10 benefits of being disciplined. Those are stuff. Those are stuff that essentially and critically, in the face, the customer can Google it themselves. Those are not the things that the customers are looking for, your learners are looking for when they sign up with you. Now, what I want to know is, okay, how do I become disciplined? And if I'm going to go through the gruesome process of being disciplined, what is it that I'm going to get? So what do you want to focus on? It's perhaps what are the 6 steps that you can take every day, and small 6 baby steps that you can take every day to kind of build this muscle called discipline. And at the end of this 6 steps, this is what you're going to get. So for example, by saying that, well, if you go through these 6 steps, every single day in the morning, at the end of the first week, you're going to find yourself being more consistent. Yeah, and so that is a result. People want to be consistent. People want to be trusted. So that's the first step. And then the second step, when it comes into the results, perhaps is once you're consistent, you can then be able to churn out the kind of work and the kind of value that people want. And with that becomes the result. So focus on the results and not the stuff. Yeah. Okay. And so here it's where we go into a little bit more technical in this part of this presentation here. And this to kind of combat this third mistake of not paying attention to user experience, I'm gonna default to Robert Gagney's 9-step of instruction. Now, take note that these 9 steps are kind of universal, so it kind of works both offline as well as online. But that said, I want to be able to kind of tease out what are the 6 key steps from these 9 steps that you want to pay attention to when you're creating courses online. Yeah, so these are the 6 key steps that you want to take into account. So the first one is to be able to grab attention. Now, how do you grab attention in today's world, in today's context where our attention span is about 3 seconds? How you grab attention, really, one of the ways that I found to be most effective is to present a story. To present a story to grab the learner's attention. And that's basically what I did at the outset. When I start talking about mistake number 1, I started telling you my story of how I created a course. I launched a course and nobody show up. Yeah, so the first step is really to grab attention. Now, the second step is to be able to come up with the learning objective, and that's the outcome that the learner will achieve. So, for example, in this show here, what I'm telling you is the three common mistakes, and with these three common mistakes, I'm also giving you the action steps. And with these action steps, what you can do is you would then be able to, for example, the first step, for the first mistake, if you follow my action step, what you'll be able to go away with is that you would have validated demand. You would have known that people actually want the course that you're creating. Yeah. And in step number two, where if you follow the action steps, you will be able to uniquely position yourself. And for example, for this mistake number three, if you follow the action steps here, you would then be able to create a course that kind of tailored to your user experience. All right, so learning objective is very important. Third one is to present the material. What I found to be really useful is use some sort of sequencing and chunking process. So, for example, here I don't just come out and tell you, well, these are the 10 mistakes that you should avoid as an online course creator. I kind of break down into the three most fatal mistakes. Yeah, and I kind of sequence them in this way and kind of chunk them in bite size so that you are able to absorb that. Fourth one is to be able to provide guidance, to provide a guide on how to learn the skills. So I don't just tell you that these are the three costly mistakes, but I also provide you with the action steps. Yeah. The fifth one is actually to elicit performance, and this is where you want to get the learner to make progress using their newly acquired skills. So what we're going to do in this show is that if in addition to the show, when you go to the show notes, you will be able to download the worksheets where you can fill out. And by filling out those worksheets, you will then be able to go through the process and you'll be able to make progress with what we kind of share with you now. And last one is to be able to assess the performance. At some point in time, I want to be able to evaluate how you have taken this material and how you have made progress yourself. And if possible, even if you give me the opportunity, I would like to be able to provide you with further guidance. Okay, so these are the 6 steps that you want to take into account when creating a course that tailor to your user experience. And that's it for this episode of the 3 costly mistakes. Next week, when we come up with the next show, we'll be focusing on the steps that you can quickly take your idea to launch. Yeah, the simple steps that you can take to kind of take your idea to launch for your online course. And once again, my name is Melvyn Tan, and this is the Courserunner Show, and I thank you for listening. Bye bye.